Turns out it gets worse for Unknown 9 The Awakening. GameStop Insider has revealed to Smash GT that the game has sold 0 copies. Yeah, that's right, 0 copies on Xbox and PS5. So Smash JT revealed after one of his recent videos that he got an email from an anonymous employee at GameStop who says they work at the corporate level. They go on to say they have data on just under 3,000 stores, so they were inspired by Smash JT's video to check the sales for Unknown 9. And whilst there was the initial 2K copies for store distributions, maybe 50 other copies got sold that were pre-orders, which aligns with my previous video on this game, where they said roughly, I think it was 36 pre-orders were done at some big box stores in the USA, and 12 people also cancelled their pre-order, probably after they saw some gameplay of the game. It seems most players are playing the game because they got it for free through, I believe, an Nvidia promotion. And they go on to say that with around 350 copies of Unknown 9 for PS5 available for shipping, demand was 0, meaning none sold. And same thing on Xbox, but they only had 150 copies, and again, 0 demand for the game. Between both platforms at the time of my first email, they sold 0 copies. This is horrendous. Like, it can't be understated how bad this is for Bandai Namco. Again, as mentioned in the previous video, which I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check it out, if you haven't already, they were due to make a One Piece game. And that's off the back of Dragon Ball sparking success. That's been a really, really successful game for them. And they cancelled the One Piece game to acquire this studio for this. Now, if you've looked into this game at all, they have a whole sort of narrative universe planned with other stories and comics and all these other things. But it seems with all their story writing and excitement over their narrative direction, they completely forgot to make a fucking good game. Like, you're a game developer, your job is to make a good game. And when you're acquired by a big publisher and studio like Bandai Namco, you better deliver. This is a shocking failure, but as of course we know, this is a Montreal studio who was consulted by everyone's favorite Sweet Baby Inc. So it's little doubt that their involvement with Sweet Baby Inc. has caused this game to fail, like many other games before it. Now, they had Anya Chalotra from the Witcher Netflix series who played Yennefer. Now, the main character was modelled off her, and she did all the voice acting, so it's not like they got a nobody to voice the main character and portray the main character in this game. They got a well-known actress, and think what you will about later seasons of The Witcher on Netflix, but she's still a fairly accomplished actress. Like, she's not a nobody. So that would mean that this game didn't cost a small amount of money to develop. Like, this would have taken them a fairly big financial hit for Bandai Namco. And especially with all the effort that they've put into creating a really huge, big universe, and then they can't even crack a 300 players on Steam. Like, that's shit. And it's all well and good to develop such a great story, but when you forget that your sole purpose is making a game and you sell 0 copies, what are you going to do next? Go out of business, sack everyone, try and find a job elsewhere? Because I guarantee you the people that push the case for this game aren't going to be successful in their field if they try to go elsewhere, because, oh, how did your first release go? We didn't sell a single copy. A single copy on console in the US. Like, that's fucking abysmal. Like, words can't describe how bad that is. And interestingly, I found this article here by Leah J. Williams, who's of course a former Kotaku journalist, shilling this game. Basically, she says we need more games like Unknown 9 Awakening. Now, I'm not going to read the whole article, but I'll just summarize it for you. So, look, she makes the point of good graphics don't make a game great, but good storytelling does. Now, I very much agree with the first part. That is true. You don't have to have great graphics to be a great game, because we've seen heaps of games fail with amazing graphics. But good storytelling doesn't make a great game either. You know what makes a great game? A fun and entertaining game loop with fluid and fun gameplay and good and interesting mechanics. That's literally it. You could set it anywhere with whatever fucking story you want, and gamers wouldn't care. Like my best mate when we were growing up, avid StarCraft fan, play StarCraft all the time. He didn't know anything about the story. He played the campaign, knew fucking nothing about the story. Didn't know anything about it because he always skipped, and he did that with every game. Every game he did, skipped every cutscene because he didn't want to watch the story. He just wanted to play the goddamn game. And this is what heaps of gamers do. Because there's visual novels if you want a story, a narrative-driven game, which is what the studio could have done for Unknown 9. They spent so much time, reportedly, developing cross-platform media for their expanded universe that they forgot to make a fucking game. It's like making the game was the afterthought. If you've watched any gameplay of this, it looks so bad. It looks boring. The world is not immersive. Like, there's just nothing good about it. But look, this raised some big eyebrows for me because this is a shill ex-Kotaku writer trying to tell people why they should play this game. But I will read the first paragraph and I'll go through the second one because I do agree with a couple of points. But first and foremost, Unknown 9 Awakening from Reflector Entertainment and Bandai Namco is not the prettiest game in the world. We know it looks terrible. In fact, its character models lean into the uglier side, giving wide-eyed blank expressions and stiff mouths that have a lack of sync with the game's voice track. Alright, so they've done a shit job of animating the characters and the game looks like turd. So what's good about it? Its combat is also fairly unimpressive, with baked-in repetition that makes later stages bland. Okay, so why should we buy this game then? But even with these criticisms, I have a lot of love for this game. And I firmly believe we need more games just like it. Okay, so you basically said, game looks shit, characters are fucking awful, the audio's not even on track with the character acting, the combat sucks, it's repetitious, boring, and garbage, but you still love the game. And basically she goes on to say, I love the game because of the story and the narrative and all that sort of stuff behind it. Well, if you love stories and narratives so much, read a fucking book. Read a book. Watch a movie. Watch TV. That's what those things are for, to tell stories. Now, games tell stories. RPGs, single player games, very story driven. I understand that. I get that. You need to have that element in there to keep players engaged and interested and look forward to a next installment and continuation of the story. Absolutely you do. But it doesn't have to be the most amazing story you've ever seen in your life, because gamers don't really care about that. They care enough to be on the hook, to want to find out what happens at the end, but it doesn't have to be Lord of the Rings caliber for people to want to play the game. In fact, if you ask a player why they want to play a game, they will say, it looks fun to play, the combat looks cool, I'm interested in exploring the world. If you ask them, would you buy it for the story? No. I would say 99% of them will say no, unless it's a sequel to a long-running franchise and they want to see what happens at the end. Then yeah, absolutely, they'll be interested in the story element, but I promise you they don't buy it for the story itself. Now, Leah goes on to say about, in recent years, we've seen the games industry relying too heavily on homogeneity for reasons of safety. Now, if you're not sure what that word means, and I hope I pronounced it correctly, it means more of the same. Okay, now, I really agree with this point, actually. She's got a really good point here. We've seen remaster after remaster after remaster, remake, etc., sequel after sequel after sequel. There's not really many new IPs coming out, if any. Now, the problem with that is the most recent new IPs that have come out, Ubisoft, Skull and Bones, disaster. Concord, shut down. This, complete flop. So you can understand why studios keep going back to the well, because they're scared of failure, and failure means failing to meet investor expectations, which means your company share price and all that sort of stuff in the background is going to suffer because of it, if not capitulate altogether. So that's why they keep going back to remasters and remakes. But the problem is we're not seeing enough new IP come out because they're failing. But what these people don't understand is they're failing because they're massively DEI driven. In the case of, look at something like Dustborn, complete utter joke. It's DEI the game. Concord, again, same thing, but also Concord came out into an oversaturated market where everything else is free to play with terrible character designs, overused pronouns, and LGBTQIA, fucking whatever, etc. ideology. And it was 8 years late to the market because there's so many other better games before it that are free to play that already have an established fan base. So it's little wonder it failed to the tune of $400+ million. And then, of course, this same thing again. You'll complain that game companies don't want to create new IP, but when they do create a new IP, they do a terrible job. Yes, you want to create and have an amazing world in your new IP to get people interested and involved into it, but you still need to remember you're making a game. That is your job. So if the game is not fun, if the graphics are terrible, if you're throwing heaps of current world identity politics into it to satisfy a narrative studio like Sweet Baby Inc., if you for some stupid reason involved in your game, you are going to fail. At this stage, Sweet Baby Inc. is the death kiss for new IPs, existing franchises, and studios. And so it's crazy that these companies keep going back to the well that they know doesn't work. I mean, you only have to look at how successful Black Myth Wukong was after all the bad publicity they got. Massive sales in China because they don't care about this sort of stuff. And people in the West wanted to stick it up the Western gaming journalists ragging on a game because it's not inclusive, because they don't care about it. And how stoked were we when the game actually turned out to be really fun and enjoyable as well. So just remember, gaming studios, your job is to make a game that is fun and enjoyable first and flesh it out with the rest so that your packaging is attractive for people to buy. Otherwise, if your packaging is attractive and the core of the thing itself is rotten, your game will be dead on arrival, just like Unknown 9. But anyway, what do you think? Are we going to see more games flop like Unknown 9? No. I'd love to see more IPs myself, especially brand new ones, but gaming companies are going to be scared of these recent failures. So hopefully we can see some new IPs that come out that aren't pandering to 0.5% of the population and actually aim towards gamers that want to play something new and interesting and don't feel like they're having political ideology shoved down their throats every 2 seconds. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye for now.